Many of you have been asking me in comments all the time, how do I make Lucent? How do I have that much Lucent? Because right now I have 33,533 Lucent. How did I manage to get that? Well, it's very simple and it's very easy. There is nothing really complicated. There's no trick. It's basically selling lithographs and selling trait extracts. But the only key difference between being able to make so much Lucent is because I had the knowledge from Korea and I understood which items are good for most of the builds, which gear items are not good, and which gear items everyone is going to want. So with that prior knowledge from Korea and with understanding how the game mechanics work and what content is going to unlock, and especially since I started in early access, I had 5 days worth of farming and 5 days worth of spending all of my gear into extracting them from traits and then turning them into lithographs and selling them. Back then the prices of pretty much everything was crazy. Like everything was so much more expensive, and right now the prices, as you can see, for most of the lithographs have been going down pretty significantly. Like most of these items used to go for minimum 2000 Lucent. Right now there's many of items that go under 600, even 496. But this is still good Lucent, don't get me wrong. You can still make a lot of Lucent with this. But it's all about knowing and following the trends on the auction house, seeing how the prices move and knowing where you can potentially get that gear drop that you can sell. When the game released, there has been a lot of server issues on EU, and with that Amazon has been giving everyone, including NA players, a lot of Ornate coin chests as a compensation. And what do you do with those Ornate coin chests? You spend it in the cash shop. And the most important item that I wanted to spend my Ornate coin chests was buying 15 blessing pouches. Keep in mind that I also have an alt that is also level 50. Monthly you can buy 15 of these blessing pouches, and since early access was still in September, I was able to buy 15 of these on my main, 15 of these on my alt. On the 1st October, this shop completely reset and I was able to buy 15 more on my main and 15 more on my alt. And if you do the math correctly, that's right, in 5 days I was managed to open 60 precious blessing pouches. And you can imagine how many purple gear items I was able to get from these 60 precious blessing pouches. Most of them were these heroic resistance weapons, also heroic resistance armors, but they were also selling quite significantly back then, because some people I guess didn't understand that these items aren't that great and that they shouldn't spend that much Lucent on it, but I guess they just wanted a purple item and they thought it was OP and broken because it was that expensive. They made a mistake. I capitalized on whales' mistakes. My ultimate goal was pretty much selling everything. And that came with a downside. Downside was that my gear wasn't that great for the first week. Even now, it's nothing too crazy. I'm working towards my build, the build that you can find on the quest log, and right now out of 11 items I have about 5, maybe 4 or 5 items that I'm happy with, that I've unlocked, but they still have no traits. And why do they not have any traits? Because I'm still selling pretty much everything that I can get a lot of profit on. And with a lot of these blessing pouches, what came was also these open world dungeon contract scrolls. When you do one of these contracts, if you didn't know, you get a precious blessing pouch for that dungeon. And that dungeon, as you can see, can include a lot of purple and blue gear items. If you didn't know, there are only 4 of these contract scrolls for 4 dungeons. Shadow Crypt was the first that unlocked, and I had about 40 something contract scrolls, which I don't have now because I used them all. Next, Sanctum of Desire unlocked. I'm still working on this. Sarodoma Island also unlocked. I have 40 of these that I need to spend. And Sylvius Abyss floors 5 and 6 is also going to unlock in the next couple of days, so I'm going to spend all of these. And you can imagine that you get one precious bag for completing each of these contracts. And as you can see, I already have 16 for completing 16 Sanctum of Desire quests. I'm gonna stack all of these, then I'm gonna make a video opening them, and then you can see the RNG and how bad or how good it is, and how much Lucent I can actually make if I extract or turn into lithograph. Another thing why these open world dungeon contracts are important, because as a reward, you get 1 Abyss currency. And why is this Abyss currency important is because you can use it to craft these chests. And the best chest that you can get great items is this. And why is this chest so good? Because it has Clasp of the Conqueror, which is a best in slot necklace for a lot of DPS classes. As you can see, I already have mine, it dropped with a buff duration. And if you do the math, I'm gonna able to craft 1 more because I get 41 here. I already have 25, so I'm gonna be able to craft 2, and then with this I'm gonna have some excess Abyss currency left. I'm gonna be able to craft 3 of these chests, which means that if I want to go for Clasp of the Conqueror, checking the price of Clasp of the Conqueror lithograph, you can see that it costs 2.4k. So if I decide to sell all 3 of them, I can easily make about 7,000-8,000 Lucent just from farming open world dungeon contracts, and on top of that opening about, let's say, 40, 80, about 90, maybe 100 of these blessing pouches, which can also drop some quite expensive weapons and some quite expensive gear. And after you do all of this, you still have dungeons. For example, Temple of Slaughter can drop best in slot gloves for most of the DPS classes. Shadow Harvester grips, if you check the auction house, are still worth around 4,000 Lucent. 3,840. It went a little bit down, but it usually is around 3,800 to like 4,500. Another best in slot boots for most of the DPS classes are also these swirling essence shoes, which cost 3.3k Lucent. They also go around 3k to 4k, and they also drop, yes, you guessed it right, from a dungeon, Cursed Wasteland. So farming dungeons also isn't a waste. The importance on open world dungeon also lies in the fact that mobs can drop purple items. Of course, when these open world dungeons opened, the prices of these items is gonna go down because people are gonna be able to farm it. But this is worth around 1.5k to 2k. Staff of Umbromancer is probably the second best staff in the game after Talus staff, so this also could sell for quite a lot if you drop it. Shadow Harvester Tunic is one of the better chests for DPS classes, also drops from these mobs, so you can also sell that. So every mob in these level 50 open world dungeons have purple items that you need to farm. So Rodoma Island also open, you can just go here and you can just simply click and see everything that it drops, how much money you can make, how much money of that is going to be in Lucent. The main problem with going this route of making Lucent is that you need Lucent to make Lucent. So how do you make your first bit of Lucent? Well, you can simply sell trait extracts. A lot of the trait extracts, even from dungeons, can cost a lot. Like you can drop a lot of these items from dungeons, like for example these daggers. If you get heavy attack chance, you can easily get 1k Lucent, and all you need is like 500 to 1k Lucent, one good drop, and you can literally snowball all the way to like 20-30,000 Lucent if you solely focus on just making Lucent and you just sell everything. Because your main bottleneck is going to be when crafting these blank lithographs, if you have enough enchanted ink, which you can get a lot from even contract coin merchants and ornate coin shop, but this is going to be your main bottleneck because you can only use these tradable precious items, and if you're crafting weapon, they can be a lot of expensive because you need 10 of them. So if you want to sell a weapon as a lithograph, you're gonna need to pay 650 Lucent, and then you're gonna have to calculate, is it worth selling that and turning it into lithograph. You're gonna have to check the prices to see how much the weapon is selling. For example, if you wanted to turn, I don't know, like just a random, if you wanted to turn this heroic crossbow of resistance, which is something that drops quite often because it's probably the most default crossbow, purple crossbow in the game. So you're gonna have to decide, is it worth paying 650 Lucent to sell it for 1.5k, With 22% taxes, you're probably gonna sell it for about 900, which means you're gonna make about 300, 350, maybe 400 Lucent profit. So you need to decide if this is worth it, or maybe it's better if you get like heavy attack chance on that crossbow and you see it here, maybe it's just worth straight up extracting it. You get 400 Lucent, you don't spend any Lucent, you just get your Lucent in by selling the trade. It's the same with armor and accessories, but they're a little bit cheaper because you only need 5 Stalin and 5 Emerald, and that's why these are also much cheaper. So armor, you can easily have a good armor that you can probably sell it for more than you would sell a weapon. And let's say you want to sell a Clasp of the Conqueror necklace that you get from Abyss Currency and crafting it. You're gonna need 5, so basically you pay 50 Lucent. So you would pay 50 Lucent to make 2.1k. I think that's a pretty good deal. But other than a few other smaller ways of selling small amounts of Lucent, this is going to be your biggest Lucent making method that you can still use in game and that you should still take advantage of, because the prices are going down. A lot of the new content is unlocking, a lot of this gear is going to become farmable, and it's not going to be as rare as it is before. So take advantage of these prices right now. Go into the auction house, see what's selling. When you find something that you're interested, go into the craft menu, find that item. Simply click on this item, go to how to acquire, you can see where it drops, you can start farming dungeons, you can start farming bosses, you can go in the open world dungeon, farming mobs there. You can literally do anything, but keep in mind, it's still RNG, you might get lucky, and all you need is one good drop that it can snowball your new economy. So hopefully this explains and sheds some light on how I managed to farm almost 30,000 Lucent. I didn't mean this to be a guide, because I do have a guide on how you can actually make Lucent. It's gonna be linked in the description. I just wanted to share how I was able to manage to use my game knowledge, use what's going to unlock next, and prioritize farming items and farming dungeons that I know will get me the most amount of Lucent if I get the drop. Hopefully you learned something here. If you still have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I read and I answer to all of them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.